Food waste is a global phenomenon and a massive problem. A staggering 1.3 billion tonnes of food produced in the world is wasted. Our current food system needs an urgent change. But the good news is we're all pieces of the puzzle and have the power to make it actually happen and create a full circle of positive change. There's no single story about food waste. It comes in different shapes and sizes. In the next 30 minutes, we'll take you through a selection of short stories about food waste, touching upon different subjects and insights in no particular order. So hang on for the ride and let's get started.
So a third of all food is lost or wasted between the farm and the fork. That actually is equivalent to 1/4 of the water, a quarter of the water used by agriculture, and a cropland area the size of China. It's also equivalent to about 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions, and equivalent also to generating $940 billion of economic loss every year. So I think the numbers speak for themselves in terms of the scale of impact.
The world produces more than enough food to feed all 7 billion of us, yet 870 million people in the world go hungry every day. And not only that, wasting 1/3 of the food produced in the world every year causes major economic losses and immense harm to our natural resources on which we all depend. The current food system is broken. While it supported a fast-growing population and fueled economic development and urbanization, these productivity gains have come at a cost, and today's model is not fit to meet tomorrow's longer-term needs.
A farmer produces carrots. The more carrots he produces per acre, and the way that he collects the carrots, gathers the carrots and packages the carrots that has to be sent to the storage to be sold off, if you like. The quicker that he can do it, the cheaper that he can do it, the more profit that he will get. So that means that you don't want humans to do it, you want something that is mechanized. Now, it's a mechanism in itself is not a bad thing, but there are limitations. So for example, if you pick all the carrots through using a machine, but then it has to be sorted, if it has to fit into a particular box size, into a particular container, and if a machine has to do it, then it has to recognize and it has to pick up. The more specific the shape is, it is easier for the machine to be able to do that process, the packaging process, let's say. Okay, so that means anything that doesn't fit that process, okay, that particular machine's capacity to pick up has to be discarded. So then you have to either think of a different mechanism of using those carrots that have been produced that are misshapen, or those carrots then either go for animal feed or gets thrown out. The packaging is too big. There are some initiatives, so that means people don't have to buy a whole package of carrots and throw the rest only because they've only used 3 and everything else has gone off. And then there are also campaigns to stop buy 3 for the price of 2. All the commercials, all the food promotions, they are finely tuned to work with the consumer's psychology. And we can use the same psychological mechanisms to reduce food waste, but you can't compete with each other. Yes, you have to stop the food promotional side, use the same techniques that has been developed to stop food waste, and that will be a success.
I think there may still be some confusion at a consumer level between the best before date and the use by date. So I think really good communication about those 2 dates and what it means is really important.
There's also increasing the problem of cosmetic standards. So retailers are becoming more and more particular about the shape and the size of fruit and veg that they accept or they do not accept. And obviously this has consequences in terms of food waste.
So all these decisions are made not because to preserve the food that you have produced. The decisions are made on profit, of making, adding value, and also making cheap food.
Side streams are often regarded as waste because they need processing. And processing, it's cost. And sometimes it makes the upcycled product more expensive than a non-upcycled product. And then, of course, there's no market and the material ends up as waste.
In the food industry, like a certain level of waste has just been accepted for such a long time that sometimes we have conversations with companies that just almost don't believe that it could be different, and the focus is more on revenue growing, and actually saving waste could improve their margins a lot. And I think it's human nature to focus on growth and growing rather than seeing how you can be more efficient, because that's going to make them more profitable at the end of the day as well.
I think if we all want to tackle the issues of food waste, then we all have to come together. The startup who have brilliant ideas and who have great technologies, but at the same time we have to make sure that those technologies are applied and are tested. And we do need to involve the big retailers. They have to really understand that if they don't test these things, if they don't put themselves into the game, then we cannot really progress on this at all.
Startups have faced an increased level of uncertainty and market volatility during COVID-19. Today, more than ever, EIT Food, Europe's leading food innovation initiative, is focused on supporting its greatest entrepreneurial minds and game-changing innovators to help them overcome the impact of the pandemic and embed resilience in the agri-food sector.
Hello Circularity 20, my name is Solvega, I'm the founder and director of Mimica, and at Mimica we are designing waste out of the food system. Expiry dates are set at the worst case scenario, but the reality is that we keep our food much better than that. Dates are shortened to protect consumers in case of rare problems in the supply chain or even in our homes. And this actually hurts retailers' bottom lines because they have fewer days to sell their products, and this generates a lot of waste in their stores. Add back just 2 days and we can see food waste being cut in half in stores. We can see it being cut even more in our homes, and actually sales go up when shelf life is extended. This is just for 2 days. For products like juice and beef, we can even be doubling their shelf life. If there would be a way for retailers and food producers to say for certain that their foods were still fresh, they could safely extend shelf life, increase sales, and reduce waste overall. At Mimica, we've worked to solve this issue by creating a label that tells you exactly when food spoils, and it's called Mimica Touch. Using chemistry and smart design, our labels and caps are temperature sensitive and they show real freshness. All you need to do is run your finger over it, and if it feels smooth, that means your food is still fresh, and only when you feel bumps, like this one, that's when you know it should no longer be consumed. This is groundbreaking low-cost technology, and we're proud of the grants and awards that we've got to back us up. After several years of lab development, we're now working with the most innovative companies in the food industry, getting ready to launch in a few months. Companies are getting in touch because they can see that we can help them be more circular, reduce waste, increase sales, and encourage consumers to store their foods better. Expiry dates drive waste. Mimica Touch keeps food valuable. That's the main difference. By supporting Mimica, you're supporting our mission of radically reducing food waste, and I invite you to watch this video to learn more about that.
The majority of food waste in Europe happens at the consumer level, that is around 53% of it. The reasons for such wasteful behaviour are varied. Many are undoubtedly related to practices that took place in the previous stages of the supply chain. For example, multi-buyer promotions cause food waste at the consumer level, therefore systematic policies and change are strongly needed. At the same time, it seems that in the Western societies, we've lost the connection and our respect for the food we eat. Our behaviour at home has become very wasteful.
I think one of the main reasons in the Western world today is that we have so much food available so easily that people just don't pay attention to it so much. So I think one reason for that is that we have lost the connection to how food is produced. Household food waste is the problem. How to reduce it, how to make it more visible to people that they are purchasing more food products than they can use themselves, and then some part of the food products ends up in the garbage bin. Changing behavior is difficult. Once you have certain kinds of routines, changing them is always, it takes an effort, and you have to have motivation to do some changes in your life. But when people are motivated, when they see that there's a benefit from changing your routine, then it becomes possible. People can lose weight when they are motivated, and people can reduce food waste at home when they are motivated. That is one very, very important viewpoint, that people are supported to and encouraged to try and do things differently, that they have the possibility, they have the information and capabilities to test something new and to like something new, and that way change the way they behave at home.
We need to reconnect with nature and each other through food. We can shift our behaviour from wasteful to wasteless, and everything starts in our homes.
You know, I'm Italian, I'm very traditional, I'm a bit nostalgic, so I think I'd like to see in the future, people caring about food a bit more, because at the end it's something that you're putting inside your body, it's not something you're putting outside. And also giving value to food a little bit more, so respect food, considering the journey it has gone through. Seeing food as an experience, as a meal, as a memory, as a pleasure, not just as fuel that keeps you going for a few hours, or something you need to dispose of just because it's past its date. So I think people need to rediscover somehow the joy of cooking, of sharing a meal, without TV, without phones, without Wi-Fi, it's just, with a good chat.
Colruyt Group is a retail group active through Belgium, France and Luxembourg. The company is constantly working on a future that is more sustainable and healthier. The company campaigns are very focused on preventing food waste at the consumer level and to change the consumer's behaviour at home.
For the consumers, we give a lot of inspiration. If you look on our website, for example, we have a lot of recipes based on food leftovers. We also give inspiration on how to store food. We also have a meal planning tool with the Smart with Food app, where people can select recipes and then really do the planning upfront. That's what we advise to consumers, to do the meal planning upfront, and then you have less chances to waste the food.
There are no surpluses in dry food. However, when it comes to fresh food and frozen products, a certain percentage of food waste appears.
More than 97% of our fresh and frozen products are sold. This is already a huge amount, but it still means that more than 2% of the fresh food isn't sold to the consumer. So already a large part of that, like 10%, is going to the food bank, so it's donated. Last year we donated more than 4,000 tons of edible food to the food banks. Most of the time they go to the local stores near their operations, and then they collect the food that wasn't sold from that store.
If Colruyt has waste, this means an economic loss. As a company, they paid for the products but didn't sell them, Therefore, Colruyt looks for losses within the chain.
For example, we have a close collaboration with 3 apple growers. We created some years ago a new apple variety together with them. It's called Magic Star and Coryphée. The Magic Star, it's now the 3rd year that we sell it exclusively at Colruyt. Right from the beginning of the collaboration with these growers, we were thinking about solutions for that 10% that would go to waste. And so we thought of different solutions. The category 2 of the products, we still see a market in that, and we work together with our suppliers to see what we can develop, what kind of new products we can develop with those products. So now we have apple juice, we have apple cake, we have apple chips, and we do have apple sorbet from the summer on in store. Colruyt Group invested 2 to 3 years ago in Envie, a social enterprise that creates soups based on food waste.
And this year, EIT Food, the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, together with 4 partners, Envie, Ricolto, Remo and Riso, launched a new soup with a great story, Robin Food. The Robin Food initiative aims to distribute over 20,000 litres of soup to vulnerable families through food banks and social grocers. With learnings from the Robin Food programme, similar initiatives are already being rolled out across other regions in Europe. Colruyt Group has also been an important partner in numerous EIT Food education programmes.
Waste is not an option, doing nothing is not an option. Talk to each other, discuss it with each other, and think out of the box.
This food waste story took us on a journey to Slovenia, a hidden green gem in Central Europe. Anna Rush is a self-taught cook and a co-owner of Hiša Franko, a 2 Michelin star restaurant and one of the leading restaurants in Europe. With her cuisine, she wants to express the seasons, the locality, her own character, and mostly the appreciation for the food that she cooks and the food that we eat.
Hiša Franko leži v Posočju. Posočje ima verjetno najlepše reke v Evropi, ene najlepših na svetu, čiste, hladne, ne zelo divje, kar pomeni polne kisika. In to hkrati pomeni, da so idealen dom za sladkovodno ribo. V Hiši Franko imamo 2 bazena oziroma neke vrste ribnika z pretočno izvirsko vodo, ki je hladna celo leto, okrog 6 stopinj, v kateri gojimo svoje postrvi. Kraji doline Soče niso bogati kraji in zato nekako se nikoli stvari ne zavržejo. Trilogija v bistvu uporabi celo postrv. Iz glave kosti se skuha ena bistra juha, kožo se suši v čips in na njej je ena emulzija potrebušnice oziroma masnih delov, to, kar ponavadi odrežemo stran. Jetrca se pripravi kot botarga, se v bistvu najprej v sovnici namakajo in potem se sušijo, tako da dobiš dobesedno botargo, ki lahko ribaš. In tretji del je pravzaprav filet postrvi. Se pravi, iz postrvi se ne zavrže popolnoma nič. Osebno mislim, da odpadne hrane ne bi smelo biti. Prvič, globalizacija nas je pripeljala k temu, da prisilimo okolje, da nam daje čez celo leto stvari, ki dejansko niso del letnega časa, kar pomeni, da ne hote ali hote dejansko škodujemo tudi okolju. Prva lekcija bi mogla biti, da se naučimo jesti skozi letni čas in skozi to, kaj nam narava v nekem dotičnem trenutku ponuja. Naj bo to divja narava, naj bo to vrtovi. In ker smo kuharji danes neke vrste rok zvezdniki, bi po mojem mogli biti prvi, ki poskrbimo za to, da se hrane ne zavrača.
Reducing food loss and waste can help meet the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, by 2030, contribute to the Paris Agreement on climate change, and sustainably feed the planet by 2050. With the European Green Deal and the Farm to Fork strategy, the European Union aims at accelerating the transition to a sustainable food system.
Yeah, in 2019, the Commission adopted a common EU methodology to measure food waste. And obviously this includes a common definition, and this will ensure that the levels of food waste are monitored in the same way across the EU. And I think they have a two-year period during which they will collect the data, they will look into this data, and then they will report on it by 2022. And mainly the most important issues that will be addressed by this EU methodology is obviously the measurements that we discussed already, but also the food donation guidelines, the guidelines for better use of former foods that can also be used for feed. And the final point that will be addressed will be the use of date marking. And obviously halving this food waste by 2030 is a huge target already. And to achieve it, we all need to collaborate together. All the countries will need to work hard for this. But it's nice to see, as we said earlier, that the EU is coming together. All the countries are coming together to try to tackle this issue on a bigger scale.
It's quite evident that COVID has really kind of shone a spotlight on the weaknesses in our food system, and particularly the challenges around equality and inclusivity and resilience. So we only have less really than 9 years left to 2030. And the commitment to reach zero hunger is a fundamental ambition of the SDGs.
When we talk about food loss and waste, we often tend to think about one single issue, 30% of the food that is lost or wasted. But in fact, what we miss is the relationship to the other components of the food system, and the fact that we cannot tackle one issue without thinking about the trade-offs and the links to other issues as well. So something that we have done was in the end of last year, we published a CEO guide to food system transformation that has highlighted which are the critical pathways to transforming the food system. Food loss and waste is one of the 4 critical pathways, but equally, shifting diets and consumption patterns is a critical one as well. Shifting, in fact, producing better while restoring the environment is another one. And also, last but not least, distributing value in an equitable way throughout the value chain is also critical.
We must shift from our current linear model, make, use, dispose, to a circular food system in which resources are used optimally and the amount of waste is reduced. By bringing all players together, from agri-food startups and key industry players to research centres and universities from across Europe, EIT Food is creating a food system fit for the future that is healthy, sustainable, and meets the needs of a growing population.
It's quite exciting when we see the world joining the dots for the first time, really, between the critical issues of farmer livelihoods, rural poverty, biodiversity loss, water stewardship, and providing nutritious and sustainable diets for 10 billion people in 2050.
To address the big bets, you do need to have strong teams. You need to have the industry players. You need to have strong expertise in biotechnology. We need to have visionary entrepreneurs and visionary companies. When they work together, we can make it happen.
Initiatives on food waste matter because EIT Food is quite good at engaging with consumers, and they want to raise awareness on these problems, and they want to make people agents of change. So it's quite important that EIT Food doesn't just want to inform people, but also want them to feel responsible, be aware of the situation, and try to change it.
I think it's absolutely essential to work in multi-stakeholder partnerships and work with the existing and very rich network of experts who have been tackling this challenge for years.
And that's where really we need to link up with groups like EIT Food, with groups like governments and others, where all of us need to work together on changing the patterns and the way we market, the way we talk about, and the way we handle food.
I really believe that we can inspire really positive behavior change. We don't need to be wasting the amount that we're wasting today. We just need to put some collaborative thought into how to make it better.